Yo, it's Money. Back again, revealing knowledge about maneuvering these 9 to 5 jobs and just basic life lessons in general. And today I want to talk about handling responsibilities outside of the job. What are we doing on our days off? What does that look like for you? And I apologize for the audio. I got traffic blowing around me and stuff like that. Um, but what are we doing on our days off? What does that look like for you? For me personally, it's always adulting. You know, it's always I always have something to do. Especially with 2 kids. Um, 2 kids, 4 dogs, 2 cats. There's always something to be done. I mean, you can get it buttoned up to a point, but dogs always need to be brushed or something, or taken for a walk, or something of that nature. Um, the things that we need to do on our days off, it's mandatory. Handling our responsibilities should be mandatory. As overwhelming as it can be, we got to take it one day at a time. You try to take it all in a week at a time, you're going to get overwhelmed. You know, you're going to get overwhelmed, and you should take it one day at a time. Try not to over plan your weekend or just over schedule yourself. You're just going to crash out. You're not going to be able to touch everything you need to do. I mean, so we get busy work sometimes, and you should definitely mix in the things that you want to do as well, with the things that you need to do on our days off from the job. Our days off from our 9 to 5 jobs, you know, what does that look like for you? It should Sometimes you just got to sit on your ass. Sometimes you just got to sit on your ass and just watch that TV show you want to watch, or fuck blindly death scroll on YouTube, just to relieve yourself, turn your brain off just for a little bit, give your brain a rest. Your brain can only fire it can only fire this cylinder so long, before it's gassed out, burnout. Take everything one day at a time. Handle the responsibilities that you need to handle. But don't forget to mix in the things that you want to do. Don't get me wrong, like, if your day off is filled with just responsibilities and you're just busy with that whole day, shit happens, bro. That sometimes that just happens. You're just busy your whole day off. And don't let that frustrate you heading back into work. You have to recognize these things. Recognize that you're handling responsibilities and you're doing what you have to do sometimes. You're doing what you need to do. But being a human being, you have to protect your peace outside of the job as well. Doing the things that you want to do. And, like I said, it could be sitting on your ass. It could be sitting on your ass. My bad. But what does that look like for you? Is it visiting friends? Is it visiting family members? You definitely want to get in touch with your community. Your inner circle. whoever that is, just do some check-ins. How's everybody doing? What's going on? There was I was just receiving a lot of love yesterday, and I was wondering why that was. And it turned out it turned out to be Men's Day or something yesterday. It wasn't Father's Day. It was like Men's Day. I don't know what the date is, but it's like the 20th or something, or the 21st. I'm not sure what Men's Day fell on, but that was yesterday for me. And there was just so much camaraderie with men yesterday. It was crazy. It surprised everybody, and then we all come to find out it's Men's Day or something. I don't know. Just had to sneak that in there, but yeah, what handling responsibilities on our days off, is very important. It's important to your family. It's important to you. It should be important to you personally. Self-care. Self-care, I'm looking a little grungy. I was going to say shit, shower, and shave, but sometimes we just get too busy, Me, I don't mind looking a little rough. It's okay. I can't keep up with everything, all the time. I had to get up at like 7 a.m. this morning. I got contractors at the home. Like I said in my previous video, one of my previous videos, my kitchen's being renovated right now, and my wife hasn't been able to get in the kitchen. It's okay. We're just working on to getting to that better situation. Everything's turning out good. The kitchen is starting to look nice. They putting the drywall up, putting that new flooring in, and they're just making sure all the electrical and everything is nice and buttoned up in there. But other than that, there was stuff in my home I needed to move. I got a U-Haul. I had to rent a U-Haul. Excuse me, sorry. Fuck the audio up. But I had to get the boxes, had to rent a U-Haul, get a pack of boxes. Starting to fill up a U-Haul. There was just a ton of junk and shit. Cleaning out that junk, that extra shit in our lives. Whether that's taking it to Goodwill, taking it to the dump, just getting rid of it, donating it. I don't like hoarding. I hate coveting shit. I can't stand hoarding. If there's too much shit around me, it's gotta go, bro. If I'm not using it, it's less than something to look at, It's not bringing anybody peace or anything. It's gotta go, bro. If you have items in your life that aren't bringing you peace, clean it out, bro. Clean it out, get rid of it. Don't let it sit there. Don't let shit pile up in your life that you gotta get rid of. Just don't wait till the last minute, and damn for sure don't have somebody else clean your shit up. Handle your responsibilities. If somebody else does clean your shit up, at least pay the person. At least pay them. Pay them for their time and their energy, their efforts, handling some shit you need to do. Today, for me, yeah, I got that U-Haul. I'm filling it up right now with a bunch of shit that just needs to be gone. Gone, get it out of here. It's useless. Never coveting anything. Insight on handling our responsibilities outside of the job. You have to handle your responsibilities outside of the job. It's mandatory. It's these never-ending circles, If you don't if you're not handling your responsibilities outside of your job, it's not a good thing. I don't think it's gonna be healthy for you in the long term, especially job related. Like it's not. It ties into your job. If you can't handle the responsibilities outside of your job, how the fuck are you gonna handle your responsibilities inside the job? And some people it's easier for them to just work at their job, and life is too crazy for them, and they're just better at their job. I understand that. I understand that. But you gotta practice. Practice handling your responsibilities. One day at a time. Well, one task at a time. Because me, I could do 30 fucking things at once. I could be doing laundry, taking care of the dogs, cleaning up, all these things all at once, and like I said, it can be overwhelming. Just make sure that you're keeping your peace. While you're doing these things, you have to do the things that you want to do. That could be anything. Taking a walk, looking at well, not looking at the sun, but you know what I'm saying. Or going back to nature. Go listen to the birds chirp or something, or listen to some music. That is going to be another video coming up. Me talking about music. Music is very important for your peace. Definitely you should have these playlists. It could be anything. Pop, EDM, country, anything. K-pop, I don't know, whatever you're into, listen to that. Whatever type of music you're into. Music is very important. It is. If you're not listening to some sort of music or tune or instruments, you might need to make a doctor's appointment, and get a CAT scan done, because music is very important. It helps bring peace to you. Sensitive topic, it's very important. I don't know all the facts when it comes to people's stress in their life, and heading down the wrong paths in life, or just having a bad mindset. You gotta protect your life energy, your peace, and music should definitely be in there somewhere. I'm not saying listen to a lot of music. I'm just saying you gotta listen to something. Beat a drum, get a guitar, something. Tap on your legs. Get the spoons going, the spoon man. You know what I'm saying? Find something, hum a tune, whistle. It's gonna, some sort of mantras, something. Shit, even just positive affirmations to yourself. Just a self-reflection in general. Music can help with that. Music can help with self-reflection, especially on your days off and stuff, or just relaxing. Play some jazz or something, or orchestra. Some sort of string instrument. Some people like drum and bass. I like drum and bass. Drum and bass is my shit. Holy hell. Drum and bass, man. That's like my peace. Drum and bass. Wow. But protecting our peace outside of the job and handling responsibilities outside of the job, what does that look like for you? Think about these things. It's important things to think about. Important things to reflect on in our lives. Because you just can't work all the time. You can't. You can, but you're going to eventually run into some sort of burnout, or you might potentially crash out. Potentially, when you're so busy and caught up in your job and your responsibilities, sometimes you get caught in this mindset. You're not conscious, if that makes sense. You get so busy, you're not conscious. My bad, a motorcycle was driving past, but hell yeah, brother. Shit, I'm gonna drive my motorcycle today just to bring me peace. You know? Some people, for peace, it's driving their car. You know, just driving it, just driving somewhere. You know, and looking at nature and stuff like that. And combination of listening to music, a bunch of things, you know? But yeah, just being aware of these things, conscious, because you don't want to crash out. You know, you don't want to end up in a bad spot. You know, it can happen very quick. You know, you get so upset. You could get so upset. You know, me personally, you know, we can get so upset fast, you know, because you can get overwhelmed. So all the responsibilities, your work, outside, in the job, outside of the job, it can hit you quick where you have to catch yourself. Big ass Chevy Suburban. I miss those bourbons. The old school Chevy bourbons. The square bodies, yeah. We have to be mindful, you know, because we can end up in a bad spot, a bad headspace, and we could end up somewhere bad physically. You know, if we're not aware of these things and not conscious of our mindset, you know, it's just the daily workings of everything. You know, it can be overwhelming. You have to remind yourself. Sometimes, one day at a time, one task at a time. That is in the job and outside the job. One day at a time, one shift at a time, one task at a time. You know, sometimes, just to stay focused and feel like you're completing these things and you're not overwhelmed by them. You know, lining that one thing up, knocking it down. Lining that one thing up, knocking it down. You know, you'll feel better about yourself. You know, you'll feel better. You're not going to feel as overwhelmed, you know, in the modern world today. You know, these positive affirmations. You know, you don't want to be out here calling yourself a piece of shit, feeling like a piece of shit. We do get depressed. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes motherfuckers get depressed out here. You know? One time, you know, some people get lost. They don't know what the hell is going on. They don't know what they're doing, what's going on, what their next move is. You know, what's the next move for them? You know? And I remember in the past, I didn't have these answers. You know, especially coming straight out of high school, I'm young, stupid, and dumb. You know, I don't know shit about the world. Why is a grown man asking me about life and what needs to be done? You know, I was just so confused at that time. I didn't have any answers for the man. And, you know, these days, I could point you in the right direction, at least. You know, I don't have all the answers. You know, I don't have all the answers. You know, but I can at least give some sort of knowledge or insight, you know, about just maneuvering life in general, especially jobs too, but sometimes just maneuvering life, you know, in general. Sometimes people just need those extra words, you know, that guidance to focus their brain into not being lost, you know, that foggy brain shit. You know, that foggy brain shit, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You just wake up and you're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. You know, I mean, yeah. We gotta be mindful of these things. You know, especially on our days off from the job. You know, what does that look like for you? You know, what does that look like for you? You know, self-care, we should definitely do self-care. You know, sometimes you can't always do those. Sometimes you can't wake up in the morning and take that shower and hurry up, brush your teeth. You know, you're doing other things, you know, and that is okay. You know, that's okay. Um, you know, today I just wanted to keep it a little, it's my day off, mind you. So I'm not as serious, but, you know, and I'm not going in as hard about the job and stuff. I wanted to talk about our days off and what we're doing, you know, handling our responsibilities and keeping our peace. You know, we're handling our adult responsibilities and making sure that we're keeping our peace at the same time, protecting our peace, you know, tapping into our life energy. You know, don't avoid your life energy. You know, it's very important. You know, um, and sometimes you just need 30 minutes to yourself. You know, me making this video, I just need 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes to myself to self-reflect. You know, and hopefully I could bring insight and knowledge to the ins and outs of maneuvering these 9 to 5s and just life lessons in general. You know, self-reflection time. You know, I've been doing a lot more self-reflection and sometimes just being aware of the shit that comes out of our mouths, you know. Maybe there's things in your life, maybe you don't like to talk that certain way, or you don't like the things that you're saying, you know. Just be aware of these things. Like, why am I saying that? You know, or why am I thinking like that? You know, we just have to be aware of these things, you know. And I just want to remind people, for their days off on their jobs, handle your responsibilities, but make sure to do the things that you want to do. You know, that's all I really wanted to say today. I will drop a part 2 video today, a second video today. This is the first one today. Maybe started off a little slow today. It's my day off. I was busy. And before I stepped out the house, I said, I need 20 minutes. I'm going to disappear. You know, right after this video, I'm back on responsibilities, you know. Like I said, I got shit to get rid of in my house. Just shit that needs to go. It's just coveted junk, trash, just shit that's not bringing anybody peace. It's just there. It's gotta go. It's gotta go. You know, what does the rest of my day look like? You know, right after this video, I'm gonna be loading up this U-Haul with a bunch of shit that needs to go. It's a little tough with the dogs right now because I need to walk them individually. I can't let them out in the yard. We have contractors in and out of my house right now. Doors wide open, and it's another job site, you know. I make sure to give them their peace. I'm not in their way. I give them positive affirmations, you know. Thank you. Thank you for working on my home. Thank you for taking care of my family. You know, I know we're paying them. They're getting paid. You know, but that doesn't mean that I don't respect that, you know. You know, just because you're paying for somebody to renovate your home or whatever, construction, you should respect the people that you're paying, you know, for their time and stuff. Just, you know, the money isn't everything. You know, you have to shake a man's hand and tell him thank you, you know, thank you. You know, thank God for carpentry and construction work. You know, because not everybody does those things. That's why There's professionals to do these things. You know, I'd be shit out of luck if I had to do it myself. Golly, you know, be hanging off a damn ledge trying to do that. You know, um, but yeah, let's protect our peace outside of the job and handle our responsibilities. You know, protect our peace on your days off on the job and handle our responsibilities. We'll feel a lot better most of the time heading back into work. Sometimes heading back into work after the weekend is like, damn, did I really take advantage of my full weekend? You know? Did I take advantage in a good way? You know, did I use all my time the right way? Try not to overthink these things. You know, we try our best. You know, we tried our best. Even if you didn't get everything done, you know, for the weekend, your days off on your job, if you couldn't handle all the responsibilities, don't beat yourself up about it. You know, at least make an attempt. You know, but sometimes you have to sit on your ass. I'm sorry, you have to. Sometimes you just need that one day. You're like, I'm not doing shit. I'm not doing a goddamn thing. I'm sitting on my ass and I'm gonna do exactly the things that I want to do. And shit, you might get bored too. You know, sometimes being bored is good. You know, just go back to nature. Step outside, breathe fresh air. You know, you don't always have to be busy all the time. I think everybody should have that one day they're just sitting on their ass. You know, it's healthy. You just need to sit on your ass. You're overworked. You're overworked. You handle a lot of your responsibilities. You deserve that one day to sit on your ass. You know, do whatever you want to do. Bring your popcorn, you know, do whatever you want to do. You know, as long as you're not hurting others, you know. We shouldn't be hurting the next man or hurting the next woman. You know, we should be trying to bring peace to everybody. You know, you'll get a lot farther in this world. You know, avoiding the crash outs, you know. Shit, we ran into a crash out last night. I said, you know what block you're on? I had to tell that to my brother. We pulled on the wrong block. I said, some drunk motherfucker almost hit his car. And I told him, I said, bro, don't even respond. He didn't hit your car. Don't hang out the window cussing this motherfucker out because we all have guns. You know, you don't know when somebody's gonna crash out. You know, just avoid the crash outs. You know, you can see, I seen it coming. My brother didn't see it. He was just like, he was concerned. He's like, the motherfucker almost hit my car. I said, but he didn't. So let's not respond. You know, we're on our way to do something. You know, we're on our way. We're traveling right now. We're traveling. You pulled down the wrong block. You knew better than that. You're in the wrong area, buddy. You know? But that's just what I kind of wanted to discuss today. Let's make sure we're handling our responsibilities outside the job, but also keeping our peace. You know, doing the things that we want to do. It's a mixture sometimes. It's these never-ending circles. These never-ending circles of life. You always got to do your laundry. You always got to clean up. You always got to vacuum. You know, you always got to clean something up. You know, the modern world, we accumulate a lot of trash, recycle and shit. You got to handle your adult responsibilities. Take your recycle out. Take your goddamn trash out. You know, clean it up. Clean it up. You'll feel 100 times better. You know, don't avoid your responsibilities. You know, outside of the job. You know, what are we doing on our days off? You know, Something to think about. It's money. I'm just going over knowledge of maneuvering these 9 to 5 jobs and just basic life lessons. I hope you learned something. Peace.